Okay, so the TV I've been dying to get my hands on for over a year now has finally been announced. And actually, it's not the gigantic 97-inch LG OLED G2, although one of those would be very nice, and hopefully I'll get to review it soon, but it's actually this, the 42-inch LG C2 OLED. That's right, of all the crazy new TVs unveiled at CES, the one I want is the smallest one, because we were promised this by LG Display at CES last year. It never came out, and we were just sort of left hoping for it. In fact, the one I've got behind me is a 55-inch C1. You could get a smaller 48-inch, but the 42 never came out, which is the one I really wanted, because for me, that size would make the perfect gaming monitor, bedroom TV, or just an OLED TV that I could recommend to my friends who actually don't want a big TV. They do still exist. But maybe the best bit is it's not just LG getting in on the action, because Sony's just unveiled its brand new OLED lineup, which includes a 42-inch Master Series A90K, which I can't wait to test. And unlike previous Sonys, it actually supports VRR out of the box, so it should be great for gaming. By the way, if you do enjoy this video, then a cheeky little like and subscribe would be lovely. So all the big TV manufacturers have announced their 2022 lineups, and LG have been showing off their new OLED TVs, including the slightly cut down, more affordable A2 and B2 series. Then there's the more mainstream and popular C2, the higher end G2 series, which is the gallery edition, and right at the top we have the crazy expensive Z2 series. And these should start being available from around May. And one of the big headlines this year is that most of the new models get LG Display's new OLED X panel technology, which promises to boost peak brightness, meaning better HDR, and also weirdly smaller bezels. And that's alongside new processors, new software, we're getting WebOS 22 now, and a few other tweaks. But for me, the two big TV announcements from LG in particular are the 42-inch C2 and also that gigantic 97-inch G2. I've actually been using the G1 and previously the GX, the G10, as my main sort of living room TV in my house for the past couple of years. I love those things. Although I would be curious if I could get away with a 97-inch TV in my living room. But more realistically and a lot more affordably, is that a word? The LG 42-inch C2 is weirdly the only model that actually comes in this new smaller 42-inch variant. You can't get the cheaper A or B series in 42-inch. On the plus side, the C series is LG's top seller for a reason. It packs in most of the latest and greatest features into a reasonably mainstream TV that significantly undercuts its slimmer G series sibling. I reckon this could be the ideal size for a big, immersive gaming display at your desk, but without being too overwhelming, and also still being big enough to double maybe as a regular TV when you're sat further away from it, making it a good fit for smaller spaces. And it's OLED, which of course means deep blacks, rich colors, great HDR and responsiveness, including Dolby Vision support, which of course we don't get on Samsung's TV still. And this is just something you don't find on regular desk monitors, unless you're willing to pay thousands and thousands of pounds. And it gives you all the gaming features you'd want, whether you're going to hook this up to your gaming PC or your PS5 or Series X. It's 4K, 120Hz, we get G-Sync and FreeSync Premium Pro adaptive syncs, auto low latency mode, low response times, and also some new upgrades for this year that I'll come back to in just a second. I think it was just over a year ago now, I actually tried the LG C1 48 as a desktop monitor. I thought, obviously with all those gaming features and being OLED, and also not ridiculously expensive at 48 inches, it was like £1,000 or something, I thought that'd be a great desktop monitor, which it would be, except the desk, which I'm actually still using over there, and you can see I've got my ultra wide on currently, just wasn't deep enough. So I did actually find myself getting eye strain, headaches, it just wasn't comfortable. Obviously with a deeper desk, or if I sat a bit further away, it would still work. And I think LG does have one eye at least on this desk use as well, because the new stand positions the display higher, so it's actually more in line with your eye, as well as also leaving more room for keyboards, mice, and other peripherals you may have underneath. Just a quick word though on the 42-inch Sony A90K, because this seems like it could be a really good alternative as the specs look very similar, and it gets a dual layout stand, which also allows for peripherals like soundbars underneath. Now, I'm not saying I will replace that with the new 42-inch TV because I love my ultra-wide. It's the, well, it just so happens to also be an LG, the 38WN95C, which is still my favorite monitor of all time. So I don't know if I can go back to a standard 16:9, even if it is a lot bigger, coming from 21:10, I think that's right, because it's a bit taller. But I am very curious how it would compare. So hopefully in the next few weeks, or well, a couple of months, I will do a side-by-side and see if, again, now I can actually transition to a TV as a desktop work and gaming display. Speaking of gaming, if you are lucky enough to have a PS5, then you know how quickly that 667 gigs fills up. I cannot recommend enough expanding your storage with one of these. This is the 1TB Crucial P5 Plus. This PCIe Gen 4 M2 drive is fully compatible with the PS5, and we're looking at some ridiculous read speeds of around 6600 megabytes per second. Now, Sony do also recommend using a heatsink to keep it cooler over longer periods, and there are loads of options to choose from, and most are simply a case of peeling off the adhesive strip and, well, sticking it on top. Alright, so after about 5 minutes, it's installed, and all I have to do now is tell it to format the new drive, and I'm good to go, now with over 1.5 terabytes of space. And it just means I'm not going to need to uninstall anything for a long time. So I'll leave a link below for the Crucial P5 Plus if you want to check it out, and also the heatsink I'm using, and a big thank you to Crucial for partly sponsoring this video. Okay, enough obsessing over the size. Let's talk about some of the key upgrades across the whole new OLED lineup. And the biggest upgrade has to be that brightness boosting OLED Evo tech, which uses LG's deuterium-based OLED X panel cleverness to increase peak brightness by up to 30%, if you believe the press release, and crucially without reducing panel lifespan or increasing the risk of burn-in. Although despite sharing the same name, it's not actually the same technology as we saw in the G1 and Z1 series last year. It is a bit different. And this new OLED Evo tech also allows for smaller bezels, down from an already small 6mm down to 4mm on the 65-inch and above models. But this is where things get a little bit complicated and where we see the differences between the range of OLEDs. For example, LG claims the C2 can hit up to 900 nits of peak brightness, which isn't going to bother the mini LED competition, but it still goes a long way toward addressing what is really the OLED's biggest shortcoming. However, the more affordable A2 and B2 series don't get this new OLED Evo technology, so they won't get quite as bright as that. I can't say for sure, but we're probably looking at a similar sort of 600-700 nits as we saw over the last couple of years. And crushingly, the biggest disappointment of all is this new C2 42-inch, the one that I really want, and actually anything below 55 inches in the C range also don't get that higher brightness technology. It's not the end of the world. I mean, we've been living with these fantastic OLEDs for a while now, and we've not all just thrown them in the bin because they're too dark. But it is a bit of a shame that even the bigger sizes in the same range, the same C2 range, do get it above 55, but the 48 and the 42 don't. Aside from that, all new LG TVs get a new processor. We're looking at the Alpha 9 Gen 5 on the C2 and the G2 and the Z2, and also the less powerful Alpha 7 Gen 5 on the A2 and B2. All of which bring improved tone mapping and AI, which can upscale sources directly to 4K rather than using intermediate steps as before, which should improve image quality. All of the OLEDs are 4K, and every model except the cheapest A series supports 120Hz, and actually now with a higher bandwidth 48 gigabits per second HDMI 2.1 ports. Try saying that 3 times very quickly. That's up from 40 gigabits per second on last year, although that won't really make a difference for like 99.9% of us. That all sounds great, but actually in the real world, the one upgrade I really want to see, and hopefully this Gen 5 processor will deliver, is a slightly more responsive home screen. It's probably my biggest criticism of the 1 series, the 2021 lineup, because we have this new full screen homepage, which is great for seeing more content at once, but it just feels a bit laggy and a bit slow. So hopefully, I haven't tried it in person yet, this will be a bit quicker. There is one more upgrade though, and it's not the picture quality or the features, it's actually the weight. And I think this is probably the most underappreciated upgrade of the new TVs. For example, the new 65-inch C2, believe it or not, weighs just over half what last year's C1 did, thanks to new composite materials. Maybe you won't notice it in day-to-day viewing, but you definitely will if you've ever had to move it or wall mount it. Just a quick word on the A2 and the B2 series though, because the A2, which is the most affordable, does top out at 60 Hz. It doesn't support 120, so maybe isn't ideal for gamers. The B2 does get you 120 Hz, but then it has that slightly slower Alpha 7 Gen 5 processor rather than the Alpha 9, so it's not going to be quite as good for that image processing and upscaling. But if pricing is aggressive enough, then maybe the B2 could actually become a more popular option. Now going back to the G2 Gallery series, not only are we getting the OLED OLED Evo upgrades, but we're also getting bigger sizes, both 83 and that whopping 97-inch version now, as previously it topped out at 77 inches, which is what I'm currently using. Apparently LG can build them this big now after reducing material weight. And these get all the same upgrades the C2 does and a bit more, including a new brightness booster mode, which should beat the C2 and the older G1 in sustained brightness of up to 1000 nits, thanks to more aggressive brightness algorithms, and also a new thermal dissipation heatsink, which draws heat from the panel, theoretically allowing it to display higher brightness for longer without increasing the danger of burn-in. Now, there are no firm figures how long they can sustain that peak brightness, and really I can't give you a full judgment until I get it in the studio and test and review it myself. The other benefit is we should also be getting slimmer bezels, and being the Gallery series, the G2 gets that gorgeous, though slightly tweaked slimline design, now with a nice silver strip around the edges. The thing is though, all these OLED TVs are pretty expensive, particularly the G series and the Z series. So on the more affordable end, LG have also announced their second gen QNED TVs, which use mini LED backlights. And these are actually a lot brighter than OLEDs, although they can't quite compete with that infinite contrast of pixels being able to turn themselves off and on a OLED TV, but they are more affordable, particularly if you want bigger sizes or indeed 8K models. I still think I would prefer a 4K OLED over a 8K mini LED, but the gap between mini LED and OLED is smaller than ever, so it's worth considering. So arguably there isn't a night and day difference with these new 2022 TVs, so I'm not going to have to chuck that in the bin straight away, but there are some nice upgrades, and I can't wait to test and review them myself, and of course see what Samsung and Sony are doing as well. Sony particularly have announced their new QD OLEDs, their quantum dot OLEDs, which I can't wait to test out, and actually may finally beat LG at their own game, but we'll have to see. All I know is I'm going to be making a lot more TV videos this year. So if you did enjoy this and want to see more from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Let me know if you're thinking about upgrading your TV this year and to what model, and I'll see you guys next time right here on the Tech Chat.